All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Today we have Sarah Whitney Anderson speaking with us about communication in the workplace. Sarah Whitney actually used to work in the Career Center at Clemson and is an alumni of the Student Affairs program at Clemson, but she has had a few different jobs since she's graduated. So she's going to share some about that, and I will let her take it from here. Thanks, Sarah Whitney.
Perfect. Thanks, Brittany. Y'all, I'm so excited to speak with you all today. I love my Clemson Tigers, but I'm also super just in love with the Career Center. They are a wonderful group of people who helped me for my career and really kind of helped change the trajectory in a very positive way. They have a lot of great resources, so I'm really excited to see some of you all taking advantage of these resources. I will be talking about communication in the workplace. Like she said, I started out as a grad student, kind of had a goal in mind leaving college, and I'll get into more of that in a little bit. But then all of my careers were surrounded by communication. So I was honored that they asked me to speak about all my roles. I will admit that this presentation is going to be really about my experience, what I've learned, how I've been able to pivot these communication roles, how I've learned how to be a better communicator, and the process of how I became that better communicator. So I'm going to actually talk about some failures and areas that I had to learn and have some learning curves. I am someone who is an interactive presenter. I think it makes more fun, and it helps me make sure that I'm giving information to you all that you actually want to learn and is helpful. So I know this is over Zoom, and I know a lot of you, I don't think I see any of your faces being shown. So I would love if you would turn on your camera or use the chat box, or even come off mute so that we can have an interactive presentation, and communicate, so that I know what your current questions are. There's some people, thank you. So I can see your faces, but see what you want to learn. I want this to be helpful for you all. So, and also if you have any questions at any point during this presentation, throw them in the chat, raise your hand, anything that you could possibly need, just let me know. And Brittany, I might even let you stop me at certain points if you see a question, like a bunch of questions coming in and I'm just on a roll. So just feel free to
Cool.
stop
Sounds
me
good.
along. Okay, so a little bit about me. Again, I'm Sarah Whitney Anderson. I'm currently in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was a Master's of Education in the Student Affairs program at Clemson. But before that, I got a public relations major from 2012 to 2016 at Georgia Southern University. Go Eagles. It's right near Savannah. Then I came to Clemson right afterward and worked in the Career Center. Following my grad program, I went to Vanderbilt and became the assistant director of student alumni engagement. And now I am the assistant director of admissions and the director of summer camp at Girls Preparatory School. So a little bit of background. When I went, honestly, I attended the girls' school that I work at right now. I'm at my alma mater. And I always wanted to come back and work here. I didn't quite know in what capacity. I knew I didn't want to be a teacher or specifically in the classroom, but I just loved this all-girl school community. It's really fun. It's really sweet. Everyone seemed to love it here. So I was like, I think I'll find my way back there. So when I went to college, communications just felt like a solid degree that I could use. I could pivot. It could change with me. It encompassed a lot of information, and it sure enough did exactly that. So then when I went on to Clemson, I thought I'd want to do student affairs, which I did. Loved the Career Center, loved how much the Career Center gave me a learning tool of professionalism, but also guidance into all different kinds of careers, who I was, how to be a better coworker with different teams, and just the knowledge of different careers all around me and different places. That helped me communicate with different people, since different jobs have different communication styles. So there's a lot of great lessons within the Career Center and at Clemson that I didn't really plan on, but it definitely helped my trajectory. While I was at Clemson, I got the opportunity to intern at Furman in their alumni department. And so when I was about to graduate from Clemson, I was very torn. I loved the Career Center. I loved alumni. I still loved public relations and some event planning. And I was really curious how I was going to tie all these things together. And sure enough, the world around me helped do that for me. And Vanderbilt called me on to interview in their student alumni engagement. So that role, I was in the alumni relations office, and I paired students with alumni for career opportunities, questions, event planning. If they wanted to know more about a certain career, if alumni wanted to give information to Vanderbilt about different careers. So a lot of fun was had, but I love that I got to still do the career planning, but also be with alumni. And to be in Nashville was pretty fun. So I'm not gonna lie there. And then my alma mater had a position open, and it was kind of at the at the end of COVID, and it just felt like it was time for a move, and positions at GPS do not open up often. So I thought I should give it a try. So I work in admissions. GPS is 6th through 12th grade. We are not boarding. We are all day students. But then we do have camp in the summer, and that starts on Monday. I've got, I think I just counted 137 campers coming to visit us on Monday. So it'll be really fun. So this is also a bit of a crunch time for me. But it's been really fun to work with campers for ages 3 to 14 during the summer. And then during the year, 10, 11 through 18. So as you can tell, between college, Clemson, Vanderbilt, and now GPS, I worked with a variety of age groups. And really the only thing tying between my jobs is communication. So get into a little bit of the presentation. I found some of these different quotes that I thought were just interesting. As we all know, communication is super important. It's what ties us as humans. It's also what can separate different people if there's a language barrier. But how we use it can be effective or ineffective. And communication is so broad. It's relational. It can tell the story, but it can also be harmful and deter people. So how do you know what kind of communication to ask? So I'm curious from you all. You can use the chat since I know it's a big group. What kind of communication do you currently use in class, at a job, between your friends? How do you find out different communication, your news sources? So throw that in the chat. And what kind of communication do you currently use in your role right now? If you're an intern somewhere as a student. Oops. Okay, so we've got emails, Slack. I'm using Slack in my camp this summer, so I'm curious to see how all of my high schoolers are gonna do with using Slack, since that's a new format for them. Verbal is number one, definitely verbal. We forget about that one, but it's still super important. I'm doing it right now. Social media, big one, definitely email, GroupMe, email, Slack, email, Google Teams. Yeah. Let's see, GroupMe, email, verbal, Zoom. Yeah, we're using Zoom right now. The WhatsApp. No, this is great. Thank you. That helps me a lot. How do you know when one of these formats are being effective? You can throw that in the chat too, or if anyone's feeling brave to come off mute. How do you know when you're using a certain communication format that you're being effective? The work is done on time. Yeah. Timeliness, when it's turned in. Responsiveness, deliverables, consumer response. There we go. I will also go ahead and let you all know that I am not afraid of uncomfortable silence. I currently work at a high school. They love an awkward silence. And then I was student affairs. So I am the keeper of the long pause. I will wait for you. It will be more fun if we all interact. Okay, so back, satisfaction, clarity on communication between all parties, when the message is understood by those receiving it, when it's remembered and relayed. I think that's huge. When you are telling something to one person and then they can explain it to another one and the communication doesn't get lost. It's awesome. When you're consistent throughout the team, ideas are being put down in a simplified format. You can get the point across clearly. Praises from employer. Yeah, when you're hearing that this is a good thing, that you hear from the community, maybe it's not just an employer, but whatever message you're putting out to the community, it's coming back to you and it's positive. I've used Geneva. I don't know what that means. Anyone want to explain that one to me? It can be concise. Yeah, this is awesome. So I loved that. I was looking at these different quotes and there's a whole bunch. But they were saying that, to use my money, put it in communication, that no one's going to know what that company is doing, what that nonprofit is trying to work on, if the story's not being told and being told correctly. So communication and how we use it is just huge. I liked this top one by Nat Turner saying that it's the bridge between confusion and clarity. And it's because of that image that I found that I decided that I think I should be honest with you all and share some of my learning curves. Since I had a degree from Georgia Southern in PR, and we spent all this time going over social media. So in my head, I was like, oh, if you have a fun meme and if it looks nice, like it'll totally work. That was not the case, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So some types of communication. There are plenty. There are many, the ones that we just went over. But these are the types of communication that I have used in my different roles and how I had to learn how to pivot, how to use them. So the types of communication: programming, events, print media, advertisement, social media, and then swag. So depending on your constituent, it may affect how you use these different items. So I'm curious again from you all, just again, throw it in the chat. How would you use swag? We get different free items, freebies from different events, maybe an athletics game. But where would you use swag? Are any of you in an internship or a class, or a current job? How would you give out swag? During outreach, it's perfect. To encourage participations as an icebreaker. Oh, I like that. To get people moving. Sometimes it's awkward to just say, yeah, like, tell me a random fact about you. That can be really intrusive. So let's give out, a fun towel that says something, and get to go to a game. Incentives for interactions. Yes, I think swag is huge to make them take it one step farther. Good way to draw people to a big event, helps attendance. Yeah, that's awesome. Onboarding employees. Yeah, if you want your employee to be happy, give them free stuff. Things that are used often, but not, and the logo is seen. Marketing campaign. Yes, Charlie. Okay, next question. How would you advertise, but using print media? So where would you use a print format? And what would that format be? Creative posters, poster flyer, flyers in dorms. Yeah, posters showing an event that's coming up. A call out. Yeah, posters. Okay, I like this. Flyers, posters, Facebook advertising, a flyer, postcards, magazine. Yeah, that's awesome. Why do you think we still use print media, even though, they say it kills trees, it's bad for the environment? Why would we still use print? More engaging, get attention, different age groups. Yes, awesome. That's a big thing that I'm going to talk about, is the target audience and constituents. It can be convenient. You don't always have everyone's email address. It's a wide audience. It could land in the hands of someone that you never expected, and that's the exact person that you want. That's awesome. Okay, my last question for now, we'll have more, is when would you plan an event? So when is a flyer enough? When is social media a giveaway? And then when would you plan an event for something? Okay, recognizing accomplishments, something about being early, a wide audience. What else do we have? When would you use an event? When have you seen Clemson plan an event for you versus just sending an email? I plan an event when I'm wanting to have my audience to interact with each other. Yeah. Events for accomplishments, show new products, graduations. Awesome. Yep. To help team bonding. Yeah. start end of term. For example, I'm on alumni board and we are moving to a new building for the school. We want to engage with them and community members in the area to create brand engagement, homecoming. Yes, this is all awesome. So I use these questions because they're going to help me later as I continue to kind of share my experiences. But when you're looking at these different type of communications, they're all going to get different kind of communication across. They also can have same communication, but it can also make your target audience and constituents act in different ways. We have so many ways to communicate, and they're growing. There's always new formats coming along the way. Since I've been in this career, let's see, I graduated in 2016, 2018. So it's only been less than 10 years, and yet there's still so many new formats that have come out since I was in school that I didn't get a chance to study. But a lot of these will cause different actions, and those actions is what you want when you're communicating to them, especially in the workplace. So if you're wanting a group to act, it will change how you present that information. Nope. Come on. Okay, so now we're going to do some types of constituents or your target audience. Many of you mentioned earlier that we're going to use a print group for a certain age group. You're going to use a certain type of model and mode based on the job or career. Is it a single or married household? Who are you talking to? Is it a different gender? Sometimes we communicate different versus for male and female. Sometimes advertisements use that to advantage too. I recently was reading an article about the Super Bowl, and that a lot of advertisements are geared to a mom or wife because a lot of women are made to watch the Super Bowl, but they're not actually watching the game. But they do watch the funny advertisements. So the next day, a bunch of the same group of company was polling the group, and none of the women knew who won the game. But they told you that their favorite advertisements were Geico, was a pledge commercial. They wanted to try this experience. They wanted to plan this trip. It was all about those advertisements, and it was to get a new different target audience. They used gender to be able to play that up. I thought that was very interesting. So in your job, or your role or your internship or even your class, when you're trying to get some kind of communication across, who are you talking to? What makes up that person? And I will admit, sometimes it is a variety of people, and you do just kind of have to play with it. What's going to get the majority of people? But when you have the knowledge and background of who you're talking to, it's going to help you know what kind of mode of communication to use. It's going to make it easier. You're also, when you're using money, you're going to be able to use that money and budget better by knowing how are they going to respond in a way that you want them to. Swag is the big thing right now. Everywhere you go, you typically get some kind of free item. Well, swag's been around now, it's been around for a long time, but it's been a big thing. I'd say probably 15 years now, we've been getting free stuff at a lot of places. And now we don't want just anything. I don't want another fidget spinner. I don't want another one of those things that connect to my phone that I can put by cards. I don't want to just put like my bank on my phone. I want a nice one. I want a legit one. I want one that's pink and my favorite color. So now a lot of swag items, we're having to figure out, what does that group actually want? What will they use? What will they carry around? So that our name gets across. Have any of you ever used Outdoor Voices? It's an athletic group. I love their tote bag, and I put all of my workout stuff in it because one, it's an athletic gear, and I walk around with that everywhere I go. When I work out, I take it to work, and I get so many people that ask like, "Oh, what's Outdoor Voices?" And I didn't even think about it, but that's what my clothes came in when I bought stuff from them. Okay, so I liked this meme, again, going back to imagery, going back to the age group, that you do have to make sure when you're talking to an age group that everyone knows what you're talking about. So I just thought this was funny that your great aunt just passed away. LOL. Why is that funny? It's not funny, David. What do you mean? Mom, LOL means laughing out loud. Oh my goodness. I sent that to everyone. I thought it meant lots of love. I'm pretty sure my mom has done this to me, and I just think it's really funny. So it's one of those times where communication can be harmful, and it's really interesting to see how, in that quick moment, the whole thing changed. So making sure that whether it's an age group or career, that's one thing that I loved working in the CCPD, the Career Center, is learning how to communicate to different jobs, different career choices. A lot of them use different lingos. Even half of y'all use different kind of communication chat programs. Some use Slack, some use Teams, some use Microsoft Office. Like, there's so many different ways to use it. So just making sure that your communication is always coming across. And I'm sure you all know this, but I'm just going to throw it in, as the old career counselor in me, is it's better to over communicate and explain everything than to under communicate and not explain it. So a couple questions, just so as you're learning your constituents, is what do they want to know and how? What do you want them to know? And then how can you make that group of people take action? What is the next step in your communication? So now that we've talked about the types of communication and the constituents, I'm about to get into some of those learning lessons and how that I learned to communicate better and the mistakes that I made, so that hopefully you won't make the mistakes. But before I get into this, I'd love to see if there's any questions. Is there anything that you're curious about, so that I can make sure, since we're approaching the halfway, that I make sure that I answer? Feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and just see if there's any questions so far. This also gives me a chance to drink my water. Thank you. All right, so it's not looking like any questions. Can y'all give me a thumbs up that everything is going well? And just kind of give me a little spot check. Okay, is there a difference to communicate in the educational institution and industry? What has been the most effective mode of communication? All right, I'm going to get to the most effective mode of communication for myself in a little bit. Do you have tools or lessons learned you could share? Yes, I'm going to share those tools. But the question, is there a difference to communicate in the educational institution and industry? I think it depends on the industry, but I'm guessing you're talking about the education industry versus the education institution. And I don't think necessarily that there's a different way to communicate between the two. It's knowing the verbiage that they use. So at every different school that I've worked at, I've had to figure out, what different things mean. What's the acronym? What's the different kind of, what do they call different things? At Furman, everyone took the lunch hour. No one did lunch meetings, and they all work out at lunch. So they didn't do like any meetings in the afternoon. All of your meetings that were in person were in the morning. So that was kind of like a culture thing that I had to learn. So not necessarily communication, but there's different things. Ooh, this is a good one. How to communicate respectfully when being disrespected. Yes. So that is a really hard one. And it's going to happen just because we are humans. So I would say, especially in my roles, I've always had a role that had a customer service area. So I'll get to some of this in my lessons, but I used to work with alumni all over the country for Vanderbilt. And there's times that they would leave one of my events and they just say that was a waste of my time. And to them, maybe it was, but for me and the college kids that were there to meet those alumni, I think that they made really great connections and they learned. So I just would thank them for their time and apologize that they did not feel the same way. And I've also learned that serving everyone, listening to anyone, sometimes they've had a bad day and you're just the outlet, that you actually didn't do anything wrong, but you're the last person that they're in front of, or as the saying goes, the straw that broke the camel's back. You were the one that just opened up the flood. So I think just always lead with customer service. Talk with your team and see if they ever have that kind of same information, and or other constituent feelings, so that you can figure out how to better communicate. Acronyms being widely accepted in your values, not, acronyms being widely accepted in industry versus speaking with them in education. Okay, so yes, I at every institution would ask someone to make a sheet for me of what all those acronyms meant so that I found out. I think a lot of places call student government like University Student Government USG or SG, and that was not something at Vanderbilt, and I misused something. So I typically just kind of ask the culture and say, hey, can you make a cheat sheet for me so I can know all the different things and all the labels? And even now in my admissions role, we have, admission denied, admission declined. So I've even made definition sheets for myself so that I can get that lingo down. These were great questions. I'm glad that we got to go over it, and that there's some questions that you're asking that I'm going to get into now. So thank you. Okay, this is going to be the part where I kind of talk at y'all a lot, but so as you've heard my career choices, I worked at Clemson and then Vanderbilt, and now GPS is what it's called, Girls Preparatory School. So my first lesson cannot just use social media. So Brittany was not at the Career Center at this time, but she probably heard this story that in my first year of being a graduate assistant, I saw this movie, and I couldn't try to look it up last night to find out what it was called. But it's called like Finding Your Passion. And it was a different way to go about looking into career choices that so many high school kids know about: accounting, working at a bank, being a teacher, going into business, but they don't necessarily know about like agricultural scientist. They don't know that you could be a buyer for a store. There's a lot of jobs that, people go into and you don't get to hear about them. So then you sign up for your freshman major and you might get even a little behind because you didn't find out about this type of job till Christmas of your sophomore year, and you're almost 2 years into your major. So it was just an interesting video to me. And I thought it'd be really helpful to share at Clemson within the Career Center. So they show this video, and the people who made it, their 2 speakers, come to Clemson and share about this experience. Well, I made flyers. I worked with another college on campus. I'm sure it was the undecided majors, but I don't remember. We both went in and spent a lot of money to bring these speakers and show this movie on campus. I worked on it for a couple of months. We sent some emails. I made really cute flyers because my PR degree showed me how to use InDesign and create things. I was feeling very on top of the world. I put the posters up around campus, and 2 people came to this event. I had spent money from Clemson to bring these people for 2 people to come and watch this movie and have popcorn and learn. I was so disheartened. I was embarrassed. Luckily, I have a wonderful CCPT team, and they were like, this is a good learning curve. This is something that we all need to learn. But just by making a cute flyer that had a good pun does not make people come to things. I should have done registration lists. I should have asked them to register, and then I should have sent out reminders. I also planned it on a Thursday night. We all have been in college. That is a mistake. We won't say why, but it's a mistake. So I in my head was like, oh, we do a couple Instagram posts, we do a couple emails, there's posters, people will definitely come. That's enough. That's it. That's not it, especially for college kids when on a Thursday night, they have so many options. Do they really want to come learn about what major to take at night on a Thursday? That's not enough to entice them, especially just popcorn. So the lesson there is you can't just use social media. You've got to be able to find different ways to also guarantee that people are coming. Because if I had a registration list, even the Monday before that Thursday, I could have probably had time to cancel that speaker and say, hey, we're going to delay this until we get more people to come because it's not worth your time or mine. But that was something I hadn't really thought about and thought that I needed. So that's lesson number 1. My second one is sometimes you need to throw a party. At Vanderbilt, I used to travel all over the country to meet different alumni and different career paths so that I could connect them with Vanderbilt students. Another part of my job was finding out where all of our Vanderbilt students were interning in the summer and picking 5 major cities and having an event there to connect those alumni and students. But before I figured out that that's what we should be doing, I was trying to connect alumni to students, and the students were always super kind and really eager, but a lot of alumni would just flat out tell me, why should I use my time, my spare free time to come meet with you? Why should I come meet with a college kid that may or may not listen to me? That, some of them even said in the past that they'd been stood up by college kids. So I had to figure out, how do I get these alumni to come meet with college kids? They're not willing to do it one-on-one. A lot of them live in Nashville. They've been to campus. They walk by it a lot. They went to school there. They didn't really feel the need to come to campus anymore. So I finally got smart and learned I need to throw a party. So I would look up the latest and greatest event spots all around town, which Nashville is pretty easy, but it was fun to also do it in New York and San Francisco. And if it's a place they haven't been able to go, maybe a new rooftop bar had just opened up and it's been really crazy, but I have the power to rent out a party room so that they get to see that new location. So they feel like, yes, I'm going to work. I'm going to meet this group of students and talk about group, but I am getting something out of it as well. So sometimes you can't just use social media. This lesson, sometimes you need to throw a party, find the place. In this role, it was worth spending the money. I would have to, stop inviting alumni to some of them or turn some of them away because so many people wanted to come. And of course, college kids did too. But that ended up being a really fruitful event to have everyone in one spot, learning about different careers, networking, teaching them how to introduce themselves, make plans, all of that. And it was really unique, but it took a good year for me to realize it's not going to happen one-on-one. So my third story, I'm now at GPS and we're a 6th through 12th grade school again. And part of our admission process that everyone goes through, it starts in September, and then the girls and families find out that they have been admitted into GPS around February. So in our process, we typically give a tour to the family. We have a conversation with the parent to find out any academic questions, how to best support them, what kind of things do they need, what do they want. Just have a parent conversation. And then also the 6th graders will come and have a student visit day, since many of them probably have not been to an all-girl school environment. So they have this long list of things to do. Well, after my first year of working in admissions, we went from a 5-person team to a 3-person team. So that kind of changed the game and what was possible to do within our process. So all last summer, we were meeting and talking what's the best way for us to meet the family's needs. We want to make sure that they see the campus, that they understand what we're offering, the product, if you will. And I had perfected my campus tour voice. I knew how to use this kind of word to the parent, but then I'm going to talk about this story to the 5th grader because they both want different things. The 5th grader wants to be seen, heard. She wants to have fun. She wants to know what's for lunch. The parent wants to make sure that she's feeling seen and heard, but also protected, loved on. That seen and heard is also probably in a totally different way than they're actually seeing it. But that's a lot of time for 3 people to be giving the tour, to be giving those parent conversations, especially when normally we have over 100 people apply for the 6th grade. So how do we go about this? Leadership last year kept coming up to us saying, I really think you need to use your current school ambassadors to give the tours. And I don't know why, but I kept putting my foot down saying that is a mistake. Like, no, they can't speak on all the things that an admission counselor knows, and nor should a 16-year-old girl know all of those things. They're not going to know how many AP credits we give and which girls go to these colleges, and to be able to talk about the tuition and just all the things. I mean, I just was in disbelief. There's no way our current ambassadors could get that. Not to say I think that they're amazing. I just kept thinking of all the information that I know, that I shared, how I have formatted my words to talk to the parent versus the 5th grader. And I just was in disbelief that the ambassadors could do it. But I was overruled. that was not happening, and the ambassadors were giving the tours, and it was the best thing to happen. One, we got so much time back, and parents on every tour were so impressed by those current 10th through 12th graders giving the tours, that they were the current girls going through the process. They got to ask questions to the girls that they don't ask me. They got to see a current girl living, thriving through GPS. So that lesson is about just use the product, put the information in front of them. Don't be nervous to show the truth. It actually will turn out. We had an open house last year, and we had, a 6th through 12th grader up on stools to talk to the current parents. And we didn't really give them any talking points because we didn't know what questions the parents were going to ask. And sure enough, a parent was like, well, since it's an all girls school, there's got to be tons of drama. And this sweet little 6th grader raises her hand or grabs the microphone, either one, and immediately was like, oh, no, we don't have drama here. The only drama that we have is this one time my friend didn't know how to make a grilled cheese, so I had to teach her. It was just hilarious. We all were laughing that that's not something that we prompted to give her, but that's what parents want to hear. Was that a perfect answer from the admissions, mind? No, but was it probably a better answer because those parents are like, oh yeah, we make our grilled cheese this XY way. So I just thought it's really funny, and I was very wrong in thinking that it should have been for me. It was not. It was our ambassadors, and they do a much better job. Next, swag. We've already kind of just talked a little bit about this, but we all want swag. We want free stuff, but we want the good free stuff. We don't just want anything. So how do you know what to give? We actually do a lot of different surveys and questions and polling to find out what's the hit swag item for the year. What do kids want? Last year, or during the school year at GPS, pop sockets were all the latest and greatest thing. Girls loved them. They all had different kinds in their book bags, on their desk, whatever they wanted. So for summer camp, I did a big blue pop socket for my campers. If our girls currently love it, then sure enough, campers will. But it is important to talk to your constituents. I overheard a girl at one of our events that she did not want to come to GPS because our pencil pouch wasn't as good as the other school here in town. Now to say we can't change everyone's mind. And so we have to, just kind of live through it. And I think our pencil pouch was great. But to just kind of find out, what do your constituents want? Because it can turn them off. My final story is surveying. Surveying is your best friend. We talked about this earlier in the presentation, that to make sure you're getting your communication across clearly. Do they understand? Can they then take your story, your communication, and share it to the community? Well, the only way you really are going to know that is through surveying. You might hear it back in the community, which is always the hope, but it's super helpful to survey. This learning lesson is that at Clemson, I had to take a assessment course, and I went through that course kicking and screaming. I just didn't understand how all those different data points were helpful, were important. If you were getting your communication across, you should just know it. You should be effective. Oh, I was so naive and wrong. I am now the survey queen. I love to give out a survey. I want to make sure that I'm giving the information out, but also so that I'm learning and growing. This past week, I just finished my training with my camp counselors. So I sent them a survey last night. Tell me what's going to be good. I know they're all going to tell me it was too long. I also know it was not too long. They needed to know all the things. However, they did tell me, hey, I would have appreciated a few more smaller breaks. I wanted this to happen again. And they told me some things that I did well. That's super helpful so that I can continue to make the training for next year. I also only train these girls once a year, and it happens every May. So there's a lot of time in between each training. It's not like I'm going to end up training them again in 2 months. So I'm going to forget some of the things that they might have told me. And it's really helpful that I can go back to that survey and look at it and see what's going on. And what did they like? What did they not like, to make the new training for the next year? Come on. Okay. So all those lessons that I've just mentioned, I want you to know that communication is ever evolving. It's never done. It's never changed. It's never finished. It's always growing. Communication is an ebb and flow. Facebook, sometimes you hear it's not utilized, you don't use it, but then for certain generations, you do utilize it. There's also a group of elements. Right now with Meta, it's easier to put up videos on Instagram when you tag certain things, but on Facebook, it's better to do pictures. So they all have different nuances to use them. So pay attention to that, grow with it, find out from different people what's good to use. GPS already is making TikToks to promote to different fifth graders because they're already on TikTok. They're not on Instagram. They're not on Facebook. Also, they prefer videos than they do pictures. They like the funny memes. While a parent probably is not going to watch the TikTok, but they are going to look at our post on Facebook. So GPS, we've been able to figure out, okay, we're going to make fun fifth grade minded TikToks to promote sisterhood, friendship, what we had for lunch, the fun that we have. But on Facebook, we're probably going to put, we had this many girls graduate and go to here. We had this many girls take this AP credits. We had this many girls that had this GPA. We use this kind of thing about care and keeping and making sure that they feel just loved and supported. So it's really helpful to find what is the new trend and is your target audience a part of that? If they're not, then, tried and true. I don't think we'll ever get rid of print media completely. Magazines, people still look at them. The pictures are really pretty. They have different elements. They come occasionally while people are bombarded with emails. You don't want to put a long email of information together. There are better ways to communicate. So if you are not getting the response that you were hoping for, pivot, change. How can you communicate in a different way? Couple just little reminders that communication is an ever evolving field. So you're never done learning. Keep up, look at companies. I have different podcasts and communication models that I follow so that I can be a breadth to it. I have a great team here that we're always looking at different things. Since I'm the summer camp person, I'm looking at what do my campers, what do my younger kids look at, but then I have other people who have teenage kids of their own and they're able to say, no, my teenage kid does not want one more t-shirt. They just want food. We're able to figure out what it is that people want. Now, did the fifth grader who I mentioned earlier actually like Baylor's pencil pouch better, or was it just the color? Was it the moment? Was it their friends around them? There's what people say out loud sometimes isn't always the whole truth. So figure out all the pieces, offer a different pencil pouch and see, is it truly the pencil pouch or were they just not driving with GPS? Should I do a social media campaign for parents? Depends. Do you have a bunch of following of new families looking at your social media? If you don't have the constituents bought in yet, then you shouldn't be doing a social media thing yet. And then what's the latest, greatest swag on it? What will make people come to an event? What will make people come to you? At GPS, I've gotten to be the most creative. It's been really fun that at the Career Center, I feel like we got to be creative within its own realm, but now that I get to work with younger kids, it's just been really fun to be able to find different ways to communicate, because I'm not going to call a fifth grader up. That's kind of awkward. They also don't have cell phones. So I need to communicate with both the girl as well as the parent. So we send alumni birthday cards to all of our, anyone who graduates from GPS, and they get a little ornament for their kid. And I've had a lot of alumni say that their kids look forward to it every year. We do an admission box for GPS. I actually was not approved to show you all that box, which was hilarious. We don't want it to get out yet. We've only been doing it 2 years, so apparently we're keeping it closed mouth, but it's a big box, and they have like a fun little soda can in it, and all things blue and very bruiser focused, and that's hand delivered on that Saturday that they get into GPS. So we figured out, it's really exciting to get into this school, but they might also have gotten into 6 other schools. So how do we kind of show them that we really care about them? We write, each admission person writes a letter to that girl, and we talk about specifics. Hey, I loved that we got to talk about our favorite book being Hunger Games. I can't wait for you to join the book club here at GPS and be able to pick out more books for our book club. Saw that winning goal of soccer. Like, we put tangible things in there to help that communication show that we want you here at GPS. For camp this year, our theme is soak up the fun. So I was trying to think of what swag item I should give out to all of my campers, since they look forward to that every year. And since we had soak, I was like, oh, it'd be really fun if I could get a towel, but that probably feels really expensive. So I reworked my budget and I took away some of the things that they normally got, but I saw that the campers never really used. And I'd rather give them this fun towel that goes with the theme and something that I think they'll use way more than like a cheap cinch sack that I think a lot of parents ended up just throwing away. And then we have a lot of fun with our TikTok videos. They're just fun to make. I've actually been in several of them, so you should all look up GPS Bruisers and see what fun we're having. That's been a fun medium since that's what our girls currently do. We knew we couldn't ban TikTok from GPS. We don't want them on their phones, so let's make them a part of it. Let's showcase what's going on campus on a daily basis. All right, so that is kind of my information. Now that we've gotten to go through a lot of that fun and my personal experience, I know that this was very, relative to me, but hopefully you've been able to take some insights and different things that you can use. But are there any questions, comments, emotional outbursts? It's one of my favorite comments. Is there anything that I could be clarify, share more about? I will also say, since we're coming close on time, that I'm really thankful for you all to come today and listen to me. I know I talked a lot at you, but hopefully you've gotten to take some tidbits for you all. Anytime, Lexi. Yeah, of course.
All right, well, it looks like we don't have
Like-
any other questions.
Yeah.
Or does anybody need to unmute themselves to ask if that's easier too? All right. Well, thank you, Sarah Whitney, for being with us today. We really appreciated it. I learned a lot that I'm going to bring back to the Career Center. So I'm glad I got to sit in on this today. But thank you everybody for coming. If you